Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Lockdown Conversations, our Thursday night little piece of drama to keep us all going. Hello to you all out there on our Facebook page. Tonight, you know the usual crack, folks. We like and out comment in there in the comment box, and we'll get back to liking it later on. I hope you're all doing well in lockdown. It's hard to believe that we're nearly a year since the pandemic started, and so many festivals stopped. And normally this is the time of year that drama groups would be very, very busy getting ready for their opening weekend shows and for getting festivals getting ready to open at the end of February and all that sort of stuff. So we're bang in the thick of lockdown or in drama season, and unfortunately, there's nothing happening, only the lockdown conversations on a Thursday night. So, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to Lockdown Conversations actor, director, writer, workshop facilitator, and just to avoid all the confusion, Cavan man, Geoff O'Keefe. Geoff, you're very welcome to Lockdown Conversations.
Thanks a million, Paddy. Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
No problem. You're kind of a bit like Joe Biden. Since we advertised this, there was more claims to you from where you were from than Joe Biden. There was people telling me you were from Drogheda and you were from Ballyshannon and you were from all different places, but you are a Cavan man.
I'm a bit of a nomad, Paddy. I was born in Ballyshannon, all right, but I grew up in Cavan, like from a young fella, you know. So now, if Cavan and Donegal were playing football, I'd have to be supporting Cavan, you know.
Good stuff. It wouldn't be safe to go back around Drumalee if you weren't.
No, that's true. Yeah.
So, Geoff, I suppose to start our conversation the same way as I start with all the other guests we had on here, how did you become involved in amateur drama, or how did amateur drama find you?
Well, I suppose kind of like my interest in drama began in school. I went to St. Pat's College in Cavan. I was a day pupil there. It was a boarding school, but I was a day pupil. And every year there was a big musical put on in St. Pat's. And the girls from Loretto across the way, they'd come over, like, you know, and there'd be kind of a musical. But that sort of escaped me for the first 3 years. I knew about it, but didn't know anything about it, because as a board, as a day boy, you were sort of outside, you know, kind of everything that went on there. Anyway, long story short, when I was in fifth year or fourth year, as it was called then, there was auditions for Tom Sawyer the musical, and I had done nothing on stage before, you know. Anyway, I went along and I was cast as Judge Thatcher, and he'd one scene in it and a couple of sort of cameo appearances, but he'd one big scene where there's a trial, and I remember kind of doing it and getting such a buzz out of it. And Father Dan Galogli at the time was the principal of St. Pat's. And he said to me afterwards, he said that you had some presence on stage, you were powerful, you know. And I kind of felt, Paddy, for the first time, I was starting to belong. I knew kind of like, you know, where I was going to, what I was interested in, or where I felt kind of like in a good place, do you know what I mean? So anyway, next year, the year of my leaving cert, it was Oliver. And of course, went and auditioned, and I got cast as Mr. Bumble. And like those months of rehearsals and that time on the stage, like did a week in this fantastic theatre space in the college, you know. And it was absolutely brilliant. I absolutely loved every single minute of it. And I remember Bill Henry, who was from Cavan, and he was brought in to direct the show. And Bill was a former chairperson of Cavan Drama Festival. I think he's still on the committee, but he was brought in to direct it. And at one stage, anyway, towards kind of around the tech time, he said to me, he said, come in here with me now to where the makeup's being done. He said, because I think you'll be involved in drama when you're older, and you need to know how to do your makeup. So I thought, this is gas. So when I went back then to adjudicate the Cavan One Act Drama Festival years and years later, I said this to Bill. I said, do you remember No, of course he didn't. Or at least he pretended maybe that he did, you know? So that's where I started off, Paddy. It was musicals, and then I did stuff like at college, you know, drum sock, getting involved there. And just loving it, loving the buzz of it, loving the buzz of, I suppose, just going to different worlds, you know, being on stage, and just that sort of camaraderie, I suppose, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was in my final year. I did fine art painting when I was in college. And in my final year, I went to see the Blue Raincoats, who I think were maybe their second show only. So this is going back a long time ago. And the Blue Raincoats were doing Equus by Peter Schaefer.
Yeah.
And I went to that on the opening night. And to this day, that show still resonates with me. The incredible feeling I got watching that show. And in my final year of fine art, thinking, you're in the wrong course. This is what you should be doing. And that was a moment, Paddy, that was scary. Do you know what I mean? Because at that time, kind of in the early 90s, it was a bad enough going to art college. never mind drama college, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's how it kind of started. That's how the interest started, you know? And kind of haven't looked back, as to say.
So how did the hook in Bellally? How did were you hooked into Bellally Group? Because you were with Bellally Group for years.
Yeah, I was with Bellally from 96 or 97, and how that happened, Paddy, was summer school, right? So at that stage, summer school was in Maynooth, and it was, I think, the second year that I was at summer school, and I was in a class, and I can't remember the tutor's name, but it was absolutely brilliant, and he was only ever there once, and they tried to get him back again, but couldn't get him back. And now I was at this stage, Paddy, I'd say maybe 23, 24. Yeah. And I went into this class anyway with all the heads that you could possibly imagine in amateur drama were in that class. So it was serious stuff. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, I met Karen Carlton, and she was directing with Bellally. And at the end of the week, anyway, she said to me, I'm doing a play for the One Act Circus. Will you come out and do it? And I said, God, yeah, do you want me to, what do you want me to audition with, and blah, blah, blah. And she said, no, I'm giving you a role, right? So that was grand. Headed out to Dundrum. I was living in Dublin at that stage. Headed out to Dundrum. There was no Lewis at that time. I was on the bus. And arrived anyway in this school out in Dundrum, or out in Bellally. And Karen says to me, there was a woman there, kind of around my age. And Claire Joyce now. And Karen said to me, Jeffrey, now, this is Claire, and Claire, this is Geoff. So Claire, I want you to lie down on the ground. Jeffrey, I want you to lie down on top of her. And this was my introduction to Bellally. We were doing a play called Vinegar Tom, which was by Carol Churchill. It was a very strange kind of play that opened with a sex scene, right? So that was my first time then going out on the One Act Circus, and we got to the final nearly every year, and we were kind of placed nearly every year. But Vinegar Tom, it built momentum on the circuit. I think we won 4 out of 5 festivals or something like that, and people were talking about it. And I was in the Bell Table in Limerick, and people said, "Oh yeah, I'm hearing about this Vinegar Tom, and what's it about?" And, it was just hard to explain it, but it was a great kind of ensemble piece, and kind of very, very interesting, because it had sort of ensemble kind of theater, and it had really interesting soundscape and stuff. And at that stage then, as an actor, I was kind of getting ideas about not that I was saying to myself I want to direct, but there were things I was seeing that I now know in retrospect where I was looking at stuff with a director's eye. Yeah. So kind of that was interesting. So we did kind of we went on the circuit and had really good crack and really good fun, you know. And I loved the One Act Circus, you know. It was just my favorite time of the year, you know. I had great times, you know. Although I remember one year, myself and Mary traveling down to Kilmuckridge when Kilmuckridge had a One Act Festival. And this would have been now when little Jimmy was still alive, right? I would have been involved like heavily with the festival. And anyway, there was the night of the Great Flood, and myself and Mary got stranded outside Kilmuckridge, about 5 miles outside Kilmuckridge on the dark road, and no mobile phones or anything like that, you know. But yeah, no, the circuit was great. You know, I loved it, both as an actor, then later as a director, you know.
Yeah, so you picked up the director's hat with Bellally and was successful.
Yeah, it was, I kind of fell into it, you know. Like Karen became the chair of the DLI. So she felt she had to step down. So she said to me, would you take up the director's mantle? And I kind of, as I say, I hadn't thought about it specifically, but I said, look, I'll give this a go, you know. And yeah, I did, and found I just really, really enjoyed it, you know. I thought that it was something that I could do, you know, reasonably well when I started off, you know. So yeah, that was great. We went to actually the first time that Ennis hosted the One Act Finals, I think in 2003, 2004. I was directing this piece called Le Corbière, which was based on a poem. And again, it was a bit off the wall, and it was kind of like, you know, it was about prostitutes on the Isle of Man during World War I, and they were basically, actually World War II, and they were drowned off the island, off the Corbière lighthouse. And so this is kind of like a poetic, image-based, movement-based piece, and we just had the best of crack. And that year down in Ennis, Walker, if Walker's watching tonight, Walker was adjudicating it, and we had just the best time. And that festival was just absolutely brilliant. Like as an All Ireland, it was just the perfect weekend. Everything that you wanted from an All Ireland weekend, you got that year in Ennis. Like it was so good. So that was that, Paddy. That was then, and then I had wanted to direct Riders to the Sea by Sing, and first year that I tried to cast it, I couldn't cast it. I just felt I didn't have the right cast for it. So I said, "Feck it, I leave it." And Gary Wall, who was he was going out with a play on the One Act Circus. And I said to him, look, I can't cast Riders, but if you've anything going for the One Act, give us a shout. So he cast me anyway in Melody by Deirdre Kinahan. Myself and Hilary Madigan. It was a two-hander, lovely little play, a little quirky comedy, you know. And anyway, we hit the circuit. And Jesus, we had the best times, Paddy. We had the best times with that play. It really kind of resonated with audiences. And the one night that I will always remember, like I went on to win the All Ireland up in Carrickmore.
Yeah.
Jeez, that was a great weekend. You know, you had to go to bed very early, like up in Carrickmore.
Yeah, in the morning.
Yeah. But anyway, the one night I remember over them all was the night we played the Bog Lane in Ballymahan. Jeez, Paddy, it was wild. So the play opens and Hilary, her character, is sitting on a bench. And behind the bench, we had this sort of hedge, a screen, you know, and I'm standing behind waiting for the cue to come on. And Gary had sort of chosen a very sort of eclectic kind of sound design for this piece. And the play is about two kind of like lonely souls, but they have a common love of music. Anyway, one of the tracks he had was something from Joe Dolan. So Joe Dolan started playing when the lights go up. Well, the fucking crowd, excuse my language, the crowd in the Bog Lane, they started to cheer, right? So before I stepped on stage, they were just like out for, you know, a good night. And I stepped on stage and they started to laugh. And for the whole performance, like it was, you know, 50 minutes, they didn't stop laughing. And myself and Hilary come off stage and went, what actually happened there? Like that was just incredible. And then Michael, it was the final night, and Michael O'Hara was adjudicating, and Michael got up and he said it was wonderful and blah, 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 blah. But I don't think I've ever been on stage and had that experience where, you felt a sea, and the Bog Lane only holds about 60 people, but it felt like a sea of people just washing over you, and that connection between audience and actors, it was just incredible. So that was great fun.
Yeah, and then so you got to do writers then.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so the following year anyway, I said, I'm going to go for this again. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try and cast this again. And we did. Got my cast. And then after winning kind of like the All-Ireland with Melody, I was going into this circuit thinking, right, Bally's got their win now. They've got their All-Ireland. There's no pressure now. There's absolutely no pressure. And I had a lot of new people in the cast, and I used kind of like a lot of kind of like people for ensemble work that weren't necessarily like written into the play. And anyway, we did very well, got through to the All-Ireland, which was down in Rossmore that year. And of course, that was another very kind of quiet kind of like time to know. You're going to bed early there.
One or two in bed at 12.
Yeah, there'd be no crack. Anyway, so yeah, we did writers there, and we won, and it was lovely. It was just a lovely kind of. It was lovely to experience it as an actor and a director winning the All-Ireland. It really, really was. And then when I had kind of done it, I kind of said to myself, "You've that done now, like you need to try something different." Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
So was it then you decided to do your masters? Was it?
I was doing the masters, Paddy, the same year I did writers. Actually, yeah. So it was over 2 years. The year of Melody and writers, I was doing the masters, and and then the following year, my only time ever to direct for the full length circuit was I did The Great Hunger. By Tom McIntyre, another Catalan man, and that got to Athlone. And again, that was kind of an off-the-wall piece, like kind of. I suppose it regarded as a touchstone in theatre in Ireland, and again, we had a great time doing that. Got to Athlone. I think we came fourth, and we got a couple of nominations, and one of the actresses got an award, and so on. And I just said to myself that weekend, I said, you could do this forever, or you could try other stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I loved it. I loved the circuit. I absolutely loved it. But that year there was Ada sent out invitations for like an entry conference. And in my head, this was something I thought I might do at some stage. But anyway, I come up and I thought, Jesus, what do I do? Will I apply? And I was kind of going, I kept thinking, I'm too young. Do you know? I'm too young to be an adjudicator, and so anyway, I said I will. I'll go for it, and I did, and yeah, sure, got it, and then the rest. This is history,
History is right. So where was your first festival? What was your first festival to do?
Well, my first festival was One Act Festival, and that was in Skerries. And the late and lovely Marianne Gibbon rang me and invited me to come to Skerries. I was there for 3 years, and Marianne was brilliant. Like she was a real powerhouse in Skerries, and she's one of the faces in amateur drama that's so sorely missed. But yeah, that was great. It was I sort of like dipped my toe in on this day. But my first full-length festival, Paddy, was down in Doonbeg. Right.
Another quiet spot.
Another quiet spot. But I was saying about thinking I was too young, So what Doonbeg there do, as I'm sure you know, on their first night, the opening night, they have a reception in Igos, So everyone goes into Igos and everyone's all dressed up. And the lovely Sissy McMahon, who was the festival secretary at the time, Sissy said to me, and I came in and I was introduced, and she said, well, we were looking at you, but we didn't think you were the adjudicator because you're so young looking. So I thought, oh God, am I out of my depth here? But sure, anyway, went on and did it, and enjoyed it.
And the rest is history. Several All-Irelands. You've done all All-Irelands. You've done the one X. You've done the full length confined and the full length open.
That's right. Yeah.
A question I asked Paula and I asked other adjudicator, a walker, that was there nights. There's a night that everyone has, I suppose, maybe an amateur drama or nights like UC Neck was back, done by the raincoats. Have you nights, Geoff, that they'll always stick in your memory? Yeah, they're good or bad. Bad memories or good memories. We're open to both here. All these people amateur drama, they know the crack.
Yeah. Well, I suppose kind of it feels in a little way kind of divisive mentioning kind of like one group or one performance, but in this case I will. The production that I always remember, and I haven't seen anything really, to be honest, that just blew me away or hit me in the same way that this did, and that was Silken Thomas's production of Mercury Fur, which was the last show that Sean Judge directed before he died.
Yeah.
And I had that up in Newry, and it was their last festival, and I just was gobsmacked by the power, the ferociousness, the truth, and the courage that they brought to that show. I just thought it was absolutely incredible. And Newry would have kind of like a reasonably kind of like older audience. I wasn't sure how this was going to go down.
Yeah.
But people were like stunned by it. And they give it the audience award, like 10 shows up in Newry, and they give it an open, And I just thought that this was just incredible. It was my first and only time to adjudicate Silken Thomas, and I mean, Sean was a revered adjudicator, so I was a bit kind of like, in awe of him, but he was still wanted to hear my feedback. He still wanted to know if I, thought anything could be improved and where it could be improved. He was always looking for bits. So that would be the kind of like the amateur performance that just stands out with me, Paddy, And in terms of professional work, I mean, there's so many, but the one that I always go back to is the original production of By the Boggles Cats by Marina Carr, and when Olwen Fura played Hester Swain, and at the end when she kills her child, Olwen Fura's scream as Hester Swain, like it chilled me. It went through me. Like I had a physical reaction to that play. Like I felt haunted by her.
Yeah.
And Paddy, I feel that it's not many nights you go to the theatre when you can have that, and you can say that, and that's what keeps bringing me back.
Yeah.
To get that punch again, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or to go to a show and to laugh so much that you're crying. You go back again looking for that, Yeah. So that's what
it's what draws us back. So it was after that, Geoff, that you and Karen, I suppose, got involved with Mill Productions, and you set out to make a wage out of this, and make it which is sometimes very difficult to do. Make it your income, your solid income, especially at the minute. But and great things again with Mill Productions.
Paddy, I suppose kind of like, just look, an opportunity sort of arose where we kind of thought, let's do this and let's see where it leads us to, and so we started off kind of doing stuff on a small scale, and we were doing kind of like a mixture of profit share work, and then we were kind of maybe getting in one or two professional actors and mixing them with community players and so on. And it was hard, Paddy. It was really, it was hard going. And what I really realised was that, my God, amateur drama is so well served by its members and the people in its group. Because when you move into sort of like professional work, like, you know, everyone, whether they open the door with a key or sweep the floor or sell a ticket or whatever it is, they want to be paid for that service.
Yeah.
Right. So that's bloody hard, Paddy. Do you know what I mean? You don't have an army of people to call on. You know, you end up doing kind of like a lot of work. You know, but anyway, look, we kind of kept at it, and now kind of we're at a stage where we produce 4 shows a year. We do the 2 examinations Shakespeare plays. Usually Romeo and Juliet for the dinner cert, and this year it was King Lear. So we do Romeo and Juliet in sort of January, February, and then October we do the Leaving Cert Shakespeare. And then during the summer, for the last 3 years, we've done a family show. We've done work by Roald Dahl for the last 3 years. Of course, we were down with yourselves in the Rammer with Fantastic Mr. Fox a couple of years ago, and had the best time with that. We had fantastic. It was one of the best. If you remember, Paddy, it was one of the best weeks of the summer. The sun was
it was scorching.
And we were staying down. Well, I didn't stay down all the nights, but the cast were staying in these fantastic cabins.
Down beside Bailborough.
Yeah, exactly. And so there was barbecues and hot tub and everything. So the cast were
some of our adjudicators, when they come to Sheffield, like to stay out there. So it's a fabulous.
That was super. So we had a great time touring with that. And then the other show we do every year now, Paddy, is we do a 1 hour panto. And that's become and that's the show I write. And that's become sort of like our unique selling point, because we kind of felt we've a 200-seater theatre, and, you know, there's so many like big pantos happening in Dublin, you know, the Gaiety panto and the Cheerios panto, and, you know, you just can't compete with that. So we sort of looked at, okay, well, what can we do that is not going to cost us, like, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands to produce, you know? So we looked at the idea of doing a 1 hour panto. So we've done that like since I think 2011 now. And there's usually kind of like 6 or 7 or 8 actors in the cast, and it has all the usual kind of like panto elements. You know, there's the Dane, there's the baddie, and, you know, we do 4 or 5 songs and dancing.
I know an old acquaintance of yours, Stinky McRinky, you know,
Paul Marin, Paul, another cabin man. Paul was great.
The panto proved to be a big hit then, Geoff.
Yeah, it really did, Paddy. It kind of, I suppose, it surprised me in so much that, again, because you're competing with, you know, the big guys, you know, you're really competing with that. But in actual fact, I think what works for us is the fact that it's an hour, you know, and that's long enough. I mean, the feedback is that parents feel that it's long enough for small kids. You know what I mean? And it's in Dundrum, it's handy. You're not bringing like kids into town. And then I suppose we priced in such a way that makes it attractive. You know, but I mean, last Christmas 2019 stroke January 20, like we had over 11,500 like in to see it, you know, which was like phenomenal, like really, really brilliant, you know. And of course, we were supposed to go again this year, and we had plans actually, kind of like when lockdown restrictions eased, Paddy, in the summer, we had plans of, you know, hoping to go again at Christmas in a socially distanced way and with a reduced audience. But of course, that all kind of went by the wayside, you know. But sure, everyone else.
Hopefully for 2021 we'll be back.
Well, sure. Look, and we'll see. Paddy, you know,
we can only wait and see. Just to touch on the Shakespeare for schools, it proved also to be a big hit for the mill.
Yeah, no, it has. It's been really, really great. You know, we've I think again what has happened. You know, we started off quite small, Paddy, and we started off like with a couple of professional actors. You know. And then we would have community players, and I mean, that worked well, but it was difficult trying to get sort of like everyone like available and so on and so forth, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've slowly and steadily kind of like just built up our, I suppose, kind of like the company in terms of, you know, what we can do, you know, what's available to us. I mean, it's still hard and it's still challenging, Paddy. Like, you know, anyone who works in theatre, you know, it's bloody hard, and you have to keep sort of like all the balls up in the air. You know, that's challenging and it's tiring. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been a great success this year. Of course, King Lear was back on the curriculum, and so that couldn't happen. But what we decided to do was we said, look, we have to respond some way. We can't just not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided anyway to take 5 key scenes from Lear, and we rehearsed over 2 weeks there before Christmas when the lockdown restrictions had eased, or the level 5 had eased.
Yeah.
And I worked with 3 actors. We took 5 scenes and we filmed those scenes. But the difference was that we also filmed the kind of like the table work and the analysis, and then we filmed elements of the rehearsal. So now students are getting to see those 3 elements. So how the work comes from the page to the stage. And you wouldn't normally get that.
Yeah.
So that we've been kind of editing that over the last few weeks, and that's actually gone up online. It's online now. If you go to milltheatre.ie, there'll be a link there to bring you to that for anyone who's doing King Lear, who's got someone doing their Leaving Cert this year, or anyone else who just wants to watch a bit of Shakespeare. You can watch it there.
I'm sure it was great to get back into the rehearsal room, although it being video and socially distanced and all them sort of things. I'd say it was good. It was good for the soul to get back in there.
Paddy, it was brilliant. But if I'm being really honest with you, Paddy, it was the first morning was very, very strange, and I definitely had a bit of kind of anxiety before going in. You know, it's like, Paddy, when you're away from something like that for so long. I know I anyway would certainly be kind of, Jesus, like, will I be able to do it? Will I remember? You know, because you get a bit institutionalized in your lockdown, don't you? Well, I feel that, you know. But anyway, so first morning was strange, but then got back into it and loved it. It was just brilliant being in a room with you know, with 3 actors and with Chris, who's our lighting designer, and it was just brilliant. Like, you know, and even kind of like doing it by video and online. It was something I didn't have a lot of experience of, you know, certainly in terms of, you know, producing something. And that was a really, really interesting, Paddy, kind of like that sort of element to it, you know. So yeah, it was great. It was great to be back in the room and to get to do stuff.
Get to do stuff, yeah. We mentioned it earlier, we touched on it earlier on there. You are a big advocate of summer school. You attended for many, many years. I think so many that they decided to give you a course then as a tutor, because you were a kind of part of the furniture down there. And, so you now actually deliver courses in UL for the summer school.
Yeah.
The summer school is a fantastic tool that we have in amateur drama in Ireland.
Oh, totally, Paddy. I mean, as I said, as a student in summer school, you know, I mean, that's where I learned my craft. Absolutely, you know, because, like, I mean, I didn't have formal professional training, you know, but it was there with the most wonderful tutors that I kind of like learned so much about, you know, how you go about making theatre, you know, with some of the most amazing kind of people. Like, you know, when I think, and I'm not going to start naming names now, but when I think of the people that I know that have gone through summer school, people that I looked up to, like, you know, and so to be in a classroom with them and to be workshopping the play with them was just brilliant, you know. So yeah, I was a bit of a summer school disciple, you know, and loved it. And again, I have to be honest and say, kind of like one of the highlights of my kind of professional work in life was being asked to be a tutor at UL summer school, you know. Like, and especially the first year, because the first year that I did it was 2017, and my dad had died a week before summer school started. And so I didn't even know, Paddy, if I was going to get to go and do it, because Daddy was so ill at the time.
Mhm.
But anyway, off I went and did my first year teaching at summer school, and I loved it. I just the buzz of it, being in a room with those 20 people, and it was a beginner's acting course.
Mhm.
Now, mind you, Paddy, there was most of those people on that course were not beginners. They were super. They were absolutely super.
Mhm.
And we just had a week that was so busy, that was, so intense, but in a good way. And I loved it. And I've been really lucky. Like, I mean, they asked me back like for 3 years. Like,
Yeah, you must be doing something right. So
well, I kind of hope so, Paddy. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I hope so, because I think it's really, really important, because, people give up a week of their, for some people it's their holiday.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And they have to pay their way to get there, and so it's a bit of an investment to go for a week, and immerse yourself in drama. So I think you need to make sure that people are getting bang for their buck. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is. It's wonderful, Paddy. It really is, and I would encourage people, who are involved in amateur drama, who are on the circuit, to like avail of the opportunities that summer school provides, and the DLI in general, like provide like really good sort of like workshops throughout the year with tutors and so on. I think it's good to do as much training as you can, to practice your craft.
Yeah.
You kind of have to. You have to.
And was it hard not to go to the stables at night when you were a tutor? You had to go home to bed, of course, from being the student to being the tutor.
I don't know. I'd have one or two, Paddy,
I'm sure you would. Geoff, during lockdown, you done your degree in fine art. You picked up the brush again and the pencils.
Yeah, I did.
So how was that for you? It's something fantastic. I've seen some of your stuff on Facebook, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Thanks, Paddy. Thanks. Well, look, I suppose it came about because, like the rest of us, kind of was a big kind of hole in my life, like kind of my work was gone, kind of like everything was kind of gone, and now don't get me wrong, Paddy, like, I had like a good lockdown. Do you know what I mean? Kind of, I was safe, I was well, I was with my family, so I can't complain. But there were times where I was bored, and I'd always been threatening to get back into kind of like making art again, and I just didn't have the time because of work commitments. So of course now I had no excuse, and initially I had no materials, so I was just using kind of like pens, and sheets of typing paper, printing paper, and making drawings and stuff. And then kind of, I started to really enjoy it, and kind of making paintings now again. And it's been great. It's been really, really good. And I'm going to actually be exhibiting in the gallery space in the Mill Theatre at some stage.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's kind of exciting,
Yeah.
So it's been good, just to try and stay creative, Paddy. I'm sure you feel that yourself. That it's when you're used to sort of making stuff, and when you're used to sort of like thinking through ideas, when that all goes, it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's tough, and as all the drama people watching here would be, you'd be in the depths of scripts and are trying to get rid of scripts and stuff now this time of the year, and I'm sure it's a huge loss to everyone. You were billed to adjudicate the one act finals that were supposed to happen in Ennis last year. Hopefully all going well, we'll get to see them in 2021.
Really hope so, Paddy, because as I said, I do have a kind of soft spot for the one acts, and that time in 2003, 2004, when they hosted it first, it was an amazing weekend, and I know they'll do a super job. And again, I probably shouldn't sort of like say the favourite, but of the 3 All-Irelands that I adjudicated, the one act final in Roscommon kind of lives most in the memory. And I think it's due to the fact that the one act final is over the course of a weekend.
Yeah.
So everyone is there for the whole weekend, and everyone is there to play hard, but to party hard.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
it was a fabulous weekend. Mary Cox and all our team there, and they've done a fantastic job on it.
They did a brilliant job. Did a
Yeah.
brilliant job. And I remember, and Seamus O'Rourke opened it, and it just had a real sense of occasion.
Absolutely.
And Jesus, Paddy, I'll never forget as well. I was chauffeured in a sponsored car, right, from like from town like to the theatre. Now, Jesus, like.
Where was he?
It wasn't a chauffeured cars I was wearing, I can tell you.
Absolutely. Well, Geoff, thank you so much for coming up
Pleasure, man.
to Lockdown Conversations. It's been great to have you. It's been great to hear a little bit behind the suit and the dicky bow and a little bit extra. As I said, thank you so much for coming on to Lockdown Conversations. That's it, folks, for this week. Next week, we have chairperson of the 6 and 6, the ADCI and DLI committee, and the chairperson of the DLI, Joanne Keane, on with us. So we're looking forward to having a chat with Joanne next week. Folks, that was Geoff O'Keefe and Paddy Farley, and that's it from Lockdown Conversations. See you all again next week.